Welcome to Musings with me, with Lisa Barnard at Butterfly Effect. I hope you're having a great day, and if you are at the end of the day, I hope you've had a great day. Otherwise, I hope you're about to have an amazing day. And that brings me to the topic for today, in the beginning. This actually makes me laugh now because there are so many beginnings and endings in our lives. I've mostly been sitting here thinking of all the possible themes for musings with me today that I could put in here on what is probably a continuation of the next beginning. So after deviating to cleaning up the chook food, breaking up the cardboard boxes into the garden area to stifle the grass growing, and picking up everyone's crap from around the place to a level where I can think, I'm finally sitting at the dining table, prepping for musings with me, and a couple of other recordings for clients, also known as change makers, that I have planned to complete today. Dining table, you ask? Yes, I know. Well, that would be because my office has become a spare room again, and I haven't got around to reverting it back to an office. But that's on another day list and a whole other story. And I'm trying very hard to stay on track today. And those of you who know me well know that my head goes all over the place, trying desperately to get in as few words as possible. The myriad of thoughts that feel so intricately woven together in my mind. I have so many thoughts that link together that sometimes I find difficult, actually probably most of the time I find difficult, to find that one train of thought without considering all the other details that link into that thought. Some of you know me. Some of you may know exactly what I'm talking about, But actually, back to the point, this beginning, and as it most often is to walk my talk, which is to find my way through this proverbial journey called life, to find my version of happiness, purpose, and most deeply, who I am. And more often than not, that is through supporting and hopefully inspiring others to create their own amazing journey. But it's also found in exploring and expanding my own self, which allows me to embody who I choose to be. And then I really can walk my talk because I'm not just crapping out words. I'm living them as best as I can each day. However, in saying that, like most who choose to make like Goldilocks and skip off down the merry path into this area of self-development, I have spent countless days trawling the depths of self, looking for that light within. And by light, I mean in that intangible element of ourselves that sparks our desires, that intrinsic motivation, that inner motivation to become more. Or as I've come to realize, we already have that more. We just have to undo or cast off a whole heap of conditioning and labeling to find that it was always there, like always there. And sometimes I found it easily, connected with it, stayed connected. And by connected, I mean like feeling those emotions that power that inner light or that intangible element of self, which it creates a feeling of fulfillment from within as opposed to trying desperately to fill that space from outside myself, like with things to do or people to see or what's this next video or what's this next activity that I need to do and achieve and have. And then like other times I've fallen off that wagon. Actually, I've lit that mofo on fire and run for the hills. Also known as delving back into the brain fog of anxiety and panic attacks and depression, albeit mild and undiagnosed. I know what it feels like. Having had it diagnosed years and years ago, so I know when I end up back there. and ending up physically smashed as well and having to go to bed. So this has looked and felt like truck level universal wake up / reminder. I seem to, or should I say I used to have this thing where I ignore the little warning signs, as in whisper, feather and brick. You know, where you burn I nearly kiwied out there. You know, where you burn the candle at both ends, starting to eat shit, start to think and feel shit, and I'm never sure which of those comes first. It's a little bit chicken and egg scenario, as in they're probably interchangeable a bit. Like, do you start to eat shit and then think and feel, or is it think and feel and then eat? And that usually all comes after burning the candle at both ends, or overextending myself, or saying yes to too many things, or when that lack of belief in self comes in. And then either I come down with something like gastro or gallbladder issues, UTIs, I might cut my hand or burn it when putting something in the oven, or drop a glass, or one of my best ones was crushing my leg between the ride-on mower and the fence rail. That was a goodie. And a very, very big wake-up call to stop, because I actually couldn't do anything but put it up and put not rice, I was going to say rice, but rest, ice, compression and elevation. And this is not something I recommend, but I'm not a big one to go to the doctors. But I would definitely recommend, and my learning from that situation was to actually go if I ever did it again. But yes, that was definitely a goodie, and definitely they are always a gigantic deviation for me from my ultimate goals of happiness, purpose and well-being. And then I have to start all over again. So I get to this really awesome place and I'm humming along, and then I start to say too many yeses, or I'm trying to do too many things, or being too many things for too many people, too many twos. And yeah, so then I end up forgetting that self-care and that self-compassion. And yeah, I have to start over again. And I think what I've learned the most from doing this so many times, and I mean so many times, is that you have to give yourself a break. You have to treat yourself with kindness, compassion, and care. We all, and I hope you don't all have an issue with cursing, because I'm going to use a little bit today, we all fuck up along the way. And if we say we don't, we're either lying to ourselves or others, or both. Or you're just a freaking legend. So feel free to take a bow and zip it, while the rest of us, well, we're still learning, and some of us are a wee bit slower than the others. Look at me. Not as in like, look at me, but I'm still learning and growing. We stuff up in our roles. We stuff up in our roles as kids. We hurt our parents with things that we say and do, and when we're not grateful, or we don't let them know where we are, and they are freaking out about where we are, and they have the worst scenario going on. We stuff up as mums. I know with friends I've done like the shit mum club, you know. Your kid comes home and they're like, I broke my arm, and you're like, you'll be fine. It's not broken, don't be silly. Yes, and a week later you end up at the hospital, and yes, you do have a broken arm. Yeah, awesome mum. We stuff up as employees, and we make mistakes. We do the wrong thing, or we file the wrong product in the wrong place, or we drop a pallet of something, and you know, who's going to pay for that? Or we forget to set the alarm. You know, we do these stuff ups. We stuff up as grandparents, and how we expect our children to parent their children. We stuff up as business owners. and whatever label you want to put in there, as everything we do or be, and that's okay. It's okay to stuff up. I think we have this big perception that stuff ups and failure are a bad thing, but how often, and we do learn when everything goes right, but not quite as in a massive way as we do when we fail, because it's more of a point in time where we go, oh shit. But you know what, for me, the difference going forward and having another new beginning is whether I want to change, whether I really want to be different, and how much I choose to try again and put in the effort. And each time I make a stuff up, I learn more deeply, and I am able to embody that learning more deeply. And the people around me learn too. Like really, they can't help but be part of the experience because they're around you. Even the ones that walk away, or the ones that we push away, which I am severely guilty of having done. Although I'm trying not to be in guilt around things, but I have been involved in people walking away and pushing people away because I wasn't in a space to be able to communicate what it was that I needed from them or who I was becoming. And in the ending of a journey together, they become part of that learning, but they also become part of the reason for our expansion. And without each other, we don't have the contrast or mirror we need to see where we really are and to challenge or trigger us into that greater growth. I've got friendships that have ended, and as much as I've grieved those friendships, like I have grieved those friendships, if the endings hadn't happened and the lead ups to the endings hadn't happened, I'd still be who I was back then. Well, maybe not, and I may have grown in spite of it all, because we can do that, but I feel like there wouldn't have been the growth that there has been, and I'm sure, or at least I'm hoping, that this is true for them too. That, you know, when we look at that greater universal weaving of all of us together, we all grow and we all change and we all expand, and I truly hope that things are better for them as well. And through that compassion for self and others, I can now look back at those times and see them for what they were, moments of growth and expansion. We needed them. They felt shit and hard and painful at the time, but wow, who would have thought I'd get to where I am now, all the way back there? I can honestly say the same for my anxiety and panic attacks. At the time when I was going through it, it was shit. Like, they went on for years, and I never knew when they were going to come. And there was that whole anxiety around that too. Like, when is this going to happen? I do not know when this is going to happen. And it's also the same for when I was horrendously sick with gallbladder issues, like seriously sick, like into hospital level. And I grew because of that. I searched for other ways of healing. I searched for other ways of being, because at the base of it all, I knew somewhere deep within myself that this physical experience was the result of an emotional issue, and situational issues that were going on, and how I was dealing or not dealing with them. And it goes for the last lot of gastro I had, you know. It literally felt crap at the time. But in hindsight, I needed to stop, and I needed that time. And every single time I've learned, grown and changed as a result. It's caused like this greater asking and searching for something better, something more, like more asking and searching. connected to my happiness, my purpose, and my well-being. Because essentially it sort of feels like that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my happiness and my purpose and my well-being, but they come from within me. So, yeah. And I want to be as open and honest and as transparent as I can possibly be with you people, because these musings are only my take on any given topic, and someone else may have another view, and that's freaking great. And other people who've been involved in my life would totally have a different perspective on where it is for the situation. But when we can hear another viewpoint, our world gets expanded and we get to grow more. And in the past, I would have felt the physical sensations of fear in speaking this out. Like the heart palpitations that go with the feelings, the closing up of the throat, the prickling of the skin, the increase in breathing, and that feeling like you can't catch your breath, and then the heart speeds up as well, and then the prickly heat that rises through your body, and that sweat of anxiety about even doing it, and the intense thinking it creates as my mind skips back over the memories, and that increases it more, and the thoughts of the people who've been part of my journey so far, the events, the situations, the celebrations, the perceptions, what may or may not have been perceived as good or bad, depending on where you were standing, and all simply perceptions of one moment in time from various viewpoints. They are now looked at with the love, the kindness, the compassion that they deserve, because they caused the expansion and the learning of myself. And I hope, and I'm sure, the expansion and learning of others. So it really is, those beginnings and those endings are all just part and parcel of this journey. And we can define a beginning and we can define an ending, but we actually just continue through those as we learn and change and grow. And I hope that you get to know a little bit more of me and you a little better through these musings, and know and really know that you're not the only one. And you're not the only one who has had to trust in yourself about where you are headed. And you're not the only one who's questioned whether it's even the right direction. You know? Whew. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And repeat. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And easily 5 times. And remember not to hold your breath. And refocus and reconnect to your inner light. And remember, whether you're calling it a beginning or an ending, because let's be real, like I was saying, they're both deeply intertwined. Everyone has an opinion about who you are, what you are or are not doing, and how whatever you are doing or being, or not doing or being, may be affecting those around you. They may only be able to see it from their viewpoint, and it may cause you to question your decisions, but only you can answer that for yourself. And only I can answer it for myself. No matter what is going on around me, I can only see it from the perspective that I'm in at the moment, unless I take that focused perspective of trying to step into somebody else's viewpoint. But know that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, do it with compassion, do it with kindness, and do it with love. And you'll know it's the right way to go. And give yourself a break. Like I said before, we all stuff up. And it's okay. But you've got to get back on the horse or build a new cart. Build it in a new way with what you know now. Shift your perspective and pivot into a place where you can achieve what it is that you desire. Stop using the failure to stop you moving forward. Use the failure to ground deeply in who you are as a result, and then launch from there. Say sorry if that's what you need to say. Give yourself a break if you need to give yourself a break. Stop saying yes if you need to say no. Think about what it is you really need to change within so that you can step forward and you can choose whether it's an ending or choose whether it's a beginning. Or make it both. Or call it something else. But make a choice. And then step into that and actually do it. That's the difference. We can say I'm sorry and then do it again. But it's in the saying I'm sorry, meaning it and embodying that makes the difference for those around us and for ourselves. So on that note, I'll end with this analogy. Our lives are like a goldfish bowl. Many views of the same situation. It just depends on where you're standing. And I send you lots of love, lots of peace and moonbeams, and a shit ton of compassion. Go easy on yourself, but step forward and make a choice. Sending you love, and have a great day.